Bryan Walbridge, it's great to see you. Thanks for joining me today. I don't think that most people would think about using artificial intelligence in a printing environment. What's the intersection among those two, and what value does AI add to people's print enterprises?
Well, we try to look at it from two perspectives. So there's the back end administrative portion of it, where we could do predictive data points, right? So when we sense that a particular device is being overused, then we can do preventive maintenance on that device early before there's problems. But we can also look at it from an end user perspective, being able to predict where a user might have a better experience with one particular printer, whether it's least cost printing or rules-based printing. So those are sort of the avenues we approach it as, back end versus front end.
A lot of agencies, of course, print documents that are sensitive for whatever reason, PII or any number of other reasons. What's the security landscape look like, and what do you and your colleagues do to try to ensure the security of these documents that are going across government networks?
Well, that's a great perspective of what we're dealing with in actually print and capture, to be honest with you. And a lot of solutions out there can say, well, we have great audit trail. So when a breach occurs, we can tell you who caused the breach. Our preference is to prevent the breach from even occurring. So we use AI as sort of a content awareness module, so that when somebody is printing a document based on their role, based on their rights and permissions, if there is some PII or PHI, we can detect that, and either through based rules or even just some static rules, we can either halt the job from being printed. We can print with an alert to administration, but we can be proactive to even just stop the breach. And that is much more important than just being able to tell you who caused the breach.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned document capture. How do you integrate the work that you've talked about so far in this conversation into workflows, doc capture, that kind of thing?
Yeah, so really what we try to do is provide a hybrid type approach to the document automation and security. So, we recognize that print and even copying, for that matter, is a huge piece of the puzzle, but also being able to capture data and digitize it is the second half of that. So one of the things that we do is, again, we're always looking to make things easy for the end user. So we have what we call the unified client. So when a user walks up, whether they're going to release a print job or scan a document, it's the same interface. They enter their CAC PIV card, type in their PIN, and now they're presented from a unified interface on the copier panel all of the workflows that they need to achieve what it is that they're trying to achieve. Scan to mail, scan to folder, scan to OneDrive. We fully integrate with the Microsoft Office suite. So all those tools are right there at their fingertips.
We've spoken kind of conceptually so far in the conversation. Bryan, give me a real world example of how AI has driven an efficiency or cost savings or avoidance, that kind of thing, in a federal agency.
Well, I mean, one of the things that we're doing right now is, I kind of alluded to it in a previous question, being able to determine, based on the size of the document, right, is it more cost effective to print it in the print shop, where it is a fraction of a cent to print, versus out into a single function printer that might be 10 cents a page to print. If it's a very large document, for example, then it's much more efficient and cost effective to send it to the print shop. So, not every end user is thinking in that regards. They may not be the best corporate citizen in that regards, because they're not really considering those aspects of their workflows. So we can use AI to make best practice decisions for them proactively.
How does all of this look in a digital first environment where agencies are saying, we want to get out of the paper business or get as far away from the paper business as we can? People have been trying to go paper free for decades now. But what does that look like in your view?
We don't believe in a paperless office. my personal opinion.
Yeah.
I do believe in a paper light office. The problem is, while we are making efforts to go paperless, the amount of data available to the end user has significantly, exponentially increased. So while we are making strides to go paperless, there's just so much data that ends up getting printing. And for every final document, there's like 17 drafts of that document that has been printed, right? So all that adds up. So this is where we could have an impact. How many times have you printed a document and realized, oh my gosh, I made a typo, right? Well, that document doesn't necessarily have to be printed. You can send it to the printer, and then when you detect that, don't print it. Either delete it manually or just let it purge. We have a system that will, after so many hours or so many days, it just self-purge. So we have saved a significant amount of taxpayer dollars when you're talking about the public sector, just by reducing what is being printed. But the bigger piece to this, and we talked about it earlier with security, is when you just print a document out and it just lands on the feeder tray, somebody else could walk by, grab that, either maliciously or not, but it ends up in somebody's bin and it doesn't belong to them. Well, think about how much information, because at the end of the day, it's not the paper that's important, it's the information on the paper that is the important piece. So now when you're bringing in things like PHI at the VA, right, or PII at the IRS, all that matters, particularly if the agency in question is dealing with any kind of compliance, regulatory compliance policies. Those infractions can really add up.
All right. To wrap up, you get one sentence, only one sentence to answer. How do you summarize the future of intelligent automation to achieve efficiency, drive productivity at an agency?
Well, one of the things that we talk about, and you'll see in today's sessions, is that AI is not going to replace your job, but somebody who knows more about AI will. So that is my sentence. Embrace this technology, because it will do wonders in terms of security, efficiency, and productivity.
Bryan, it's great to talk to you. Thanks very much for joining me.
It's been my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Bryan.